What if the reason your anxiety keeps coming back is because your brain believes it's protecting you, not sabotaging you, not failing you, protecting you? What if anxiety isn't a glitch in the system, but the system running exactly as it was built to run? And what if the real issue isn't that your alarm goes off, but that no one ever showed your nervous system when it's safe to power down? Let's slow this down. Anxiety is not random. It feels random. It feels unfair. It feels intrusive. But neurologically, it is prediction. Your brain is not a passive observer of reality. It is a forecasting engine. Every second, even right now, it is asking, what's about to happen next? Is there a pattern here? Is this familiar? Is this safe? Should I prepare? It does not wait for certainty. It prepares for possibility. And the moment uncertainty rises, even slightly, anxiety rises with it, because uncertainty to the brain equals potential danger. The predictive brain. Your amygdala, the brain's rapid threat detection system, does not wait for proof. It anticipates, and it does it in milliseconds. Before your conscious mind can form a coherent thought, before you can say, I'm fine, your body may have already shifted into defense mode. Heart rate increases. Blood flow moves away from digestion and toward large muscle groups. Breathing becomes shallow and faster. Muscle tone rises. Attention narrows. You didn't choose that. It happened. Because thousands of years ago, hesitation could mean death. If something moved in the bushes, it was better to assume predator than wind, better anxious than eaten. The problem is not that your system is dramatic. The problem is the environment changed and your wiring didn't. Modern stressors don't look like predators, they look like deadlines with unclear expectations, a boss's neutral facial expression, a text message that says, we need to talk, a fluctuating bank balance, relationship ambiguity, social comparison, a constant stream of news alerts. Your nervous system was optimized for acute visible threats: chase, escape, fight, survive, recover. It was not designed for chronic psychological ambiguity. So instead of threat to action, to resolution, to reset, you get uncertainty to internal alarm, to no physical discharge, to no clear resolution. And when the body prepares for action but doesn't complete it, that activation lingers. That lingering state is what we call chronic anxiety. Why anxiety feels endless. Because biologically, it often never completes its cycle. In nature, a threat appears. You run or you fight. The threat ends. Your body trembles. You breathe deeply. Energy discharges. The system resets. In modern life, a stressful email arrives. A memory resurfaces. A thought spirals. But instead of running or fighting, you sit in a chair. You think. You analyze. You suppress. You scroll. You distract yourself. The energy mobilized for survival has nowhere to go. Your muscles stay subtly braced. Your breathing stays shallow. Your nervous system remains slightly on guard. Not enough to collapse. Not enough to explode. Just enough to feel restless, tense, uneasy. Incomplete stress cycles create persistent anxiety. This isn't weakness, it's unfinished physiology. The hidden layer, control. Here's where it gets deeper. Anxiety spikes most intensely when control feels uncertain. Your brain tolerates pain better than unpredictability. Research in neuroscience shows that uncertainty can activate the amygdala more strongly than a known negative outcome. In other words, your brain would often prefer certainty, even bad certainty, over ambiguity. You would rather know the relationship is over than not know where you stand. You would rather know you failed than wait for results. Waiting is hard, not because you're impatient. Waiting is neurologically activating. Ambiguous texts feel louder than clear rejection because ambiguity keeps the prediction loop open. And the brain hates open loops. The resistance trap. Now here's the paradox. When anxiety rises, your instinct is to eliminate it. Make it stop, fix it, control it. So you analyze every sensation, monitor your heart rate, Google symptoms, reread conversations, avoid certain places, seek reassurance. Mentally rehearse worst-case scenarios. Each of those behaviors feels productive, but neurologically, they send one powerful message. This sensation is dangerous. Your brain updates its internal threat model. Next time, it reacts faster. Because you confirmed the alarm was necessary. This is reinforcement learning at work. Every time you avoid discomfort, your brain concludes, good thing we sounded the alarm, that helped. Avoidance strengthens fear circuits. Toleration weakens them. Not instantly, not dramatically, but gradually. What actually changes the system? Not suppression, not positive thinking, not pretending you're calm. The nervous system doesn't respond to logic alone, it responds to experience, specifically activation without catastrophe. When your body enters anxiety and nothing terrible happens, that creates something powerful: prediction error. Your brain predicted danger. Danger did not occur. The model updates. That update is neuroplasticity, not forcing calm, not erasing fear, but teaching your system through repeated lived experience. This activation is uncomfortable, but it is not lethal. Over time, the alarm becomes more precise, less sensitive, more calibrated. Anxiety doesn't disappear because you defeated it. It softens because your nervous system learned something new. And that learning doesn't happen through control. It happens through safe exposure, repetition, and completed cycles, which means the question shifts. It's no longer, how do I get rid of anxiety? It becomes, how do I teach my nervous system what safety actually feels like? And that is a very different path. Now we move into real regulation, not surface level advice, not just calm down, not take a deep breath. Without understanding why, we're talking layered nervous system recalibration. Because anxiety isn't just a thought problem, it's a physiological state. And states shift through experience, not slogans. Let's go deeper. Breath work, appoitior andur. But why it actually works. When anxiety activates, your breathing changes automatically. It becomes faster, shallower, upper chest dominant. And here's what most people don't realize. Rapid breathing lowers carbon dioxide, CO2, levels in the blood. Low CO2 creates physical sensations: dizziness, tingling in fingers, chest tightness, visual disturbances, a sense of unreality. Those sensations then amplify fear. Your brain interprets them as evidence that something is wrong. So, the cycle tightens. Slow breathing doesn't just relax you, it restores CO2 balance. But even more importantly, long exhalations stimulate the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a primary communication pathway between your brain and body. When activated, it signals the heart, you can slow down now. We are not under immediate threat. This shifts your autonomic state from sympathetic dominance, fight or flight, toward parasympathetic balance, rest and digest. Here's the upgrade. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6 to 8. The longer exhale is key. Do this for 2 minutes, not to eliminate anxiety, not to force calm, but to send one biological message: safety is possible. Over time, repetition builds autonomic flexibility, the ability to move between activation and calm without getting stuck. That's regulation. Interoceptive exposure. Here's something counterintuitive. Most people don't fear the event. They fear the sensation, not the presentation, but the racing heart before it. Not the airplane, but the dizziness during takeoff. So the body itself becomes the perceived threat. This is where interoceptive exposure becomes powerful. Instead of avoiding sensations, you intentionally create mild versions of them in a controlled, safe setting. Run in place for 60 seconds. Spin gently in a chair. Hold your breath briefly. Let your heart rate rise. Then pause. Notice. This feels uncomfortable. And I am safe. You're teaching your brain something critical. Activation does not equal danger. This creates prediction error again. Your system predicted catastrophe. Catastrophe did not occur. The model updates. Over time, the sensations lose their charge, not because they disappear, but because they are no longer misinterpreted as lethal. Cognitive diffusion anxiety thrives on fusion. Fusion means you and the thought feel like the same thing. I'm going to fail. I can't handle this. This feeling means something terrible is happening. But a thought is not an event, it's mental activity. So we introduce separation instead of, I'm going to fail. Shift to, I'm having the thought that I'm going to fail. That small linguistic adjustment activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for perspective and regulation. You move from inside the storm to observing the storm. You become aware of the narrative instead of consumed by it. Anxiety loses intensity when thoughts are treated as hypotheses, not facts. Sensory anchoring anxiety lives in projected futures. What if? What if? What if? Your brain simulates threat scenarios that have not happened. To interrupt simulation, you redirect attention to sensory data. Ask, what do I see right now? What do I hear? What do I physically feel in my hands or feet? Notice specific details: the color of a wall, the texture of fabric, the sound of distant traffic. Here's the neuroscience. The brain cannot deeply simulate future catastrophe and fully process rich, present moment sensory information at the same time. Attention is finite. When you deliberately anchor to sensory input, you shift neural resources away from catastrophic prediction. This isn't distraction, it's recalibration. Complete the stress response. Remember earlier, anxiety lingers when activation never completes. Your body mobilizes energy for action, but modern life often prevents discharge. So we intentionally complete the cycle. Shake your arms for 30 seconds, jump lightly in place, take a brisk walk, do 10 push-ups. When animals survive threat, they shake violently afterward. It looks strange, but it's brilliant. It releases residual activation. Humans suppress this. We tighten instead. When you allow movement after stress, you help your nervous system reset. Completion reduces lingering activation, and that reduces baseline anxiety. Social regulation. We are not wired to regulate alone. Humans are social mammals. Your nervous system constantly scans faces, voices, posture. The ventral vagal system, part of the parasympathetic branch, activates in safe social engagement. Eye contact, warm tone, facial softness, shared laughter. These cues tell your body, we are safe in connection. Isolation, on the other hand, increases baseline threat perception. When you're alone and anxious, your brain has fewer signals of safety. Even brief, warm interactions matter. A short conversation, a genuine smile from a barista, a friend's calm voice. Co-regulation lowers physiological arousal faster than self-regulation alone. And this is crucial. You don't have to process everything alone to heal. Sometimes safety is transmitted, not manufactured. Real regulation is layered. Breath, body, thought, attention, movement, connection. Anxiety doesn't dissolve because you force it away. It softens because your nervous system repeatedly experiences activation followed by safety. That pairing rewires the system. And the more often your body learns, I can feel this and survive it, the less urgently it needs to sound the alarm next time. Short-term tools calm spikes. They help when your heart is racing, when your chest feels tight, when your thoughts spiral at 2 a.m. But spikes are not the whole story. Long-term strategies recalibrate baseline. And baseline is everything. Let's go deeper. Baseline nervous system tone. Your nervous system has a default setting, a resting tone. Some people wake up already braced, others wake up relatively neutral. That difference isn't personality, it's physiology. Your daily habits determine how reactive your system becomes under stress. Sleep deprivation alone can increase amygdala reactivity by up to 60%. That means the same email, the same comment, the same uncertainty feels significantly more threatening when you're underslept. Chronic caffeine? It elevates baseline cortisol and adrenaline. You may think you're just functioning, but your nervous system is operating slightly mobilized all day. Constant multitasking? It fragments attention and prevents parasympathetic recovery. Your brain never fully exits mild alert mode. And here's the uncomfortable truth: you cannot regulate anxiety inside chaos. You regulate anxiety inside rhythm. Consistent sleep windows, predictable meal timing, light exposure in the morning, wind down cues at night. Stability in behavior builds stability in biology. Consistency reduces unnecessary prediction error. Your brain relaxes when patterns are reliable. Regulation is not a moment, it's a lifestyle architecture, strength training, and neurochemistry. We need to talk about movement, not as self care, not as aesthetics, as neurobiology. Resistance training increases GABA, a primary inhibitory neurotransmitter that quiets neural firing. BDNF, brain derived neurotrophic factor, which supports neural growth and adaptability. Dopamine regulation, improving motivation and reward stability. It also improves insulin sensitivity, reduces systemic inflammation, and increases mitochondrial efficiency, all of which influence mood regulation. Movement literally changes the chemical environment of your brain. It increases stress resilience at the cellular level. Your nervous system becomes more adaptable, more flexible, less reactive. This is not optional for mental health. It's foundational. If anxiety is chronic and movement is absent, you are trying to regulate a high energy system without discharge. That's like revving an engine and never driving the car. Trauma and stored activation. Now we move into deeper layers. If your anxiety feels disproportionate to the situation, there may be stored activation in the system. Your nervous system encodes patterns. If unpredictability once meant danger, emotionally or physically, your system may interpret ambiguity as threat long after the original context is gone. This is not dramatic. It's predictive coding. Your brain builds models from past experience. If those models include unresolved stress, they remain active in the background. So when something vaguely similar appears, a tone shift, a delay in response, a raised voice, the system reacts fast. Before logic, before context. Therapies like CBT help restructure distorted thought patterns. EMDR helps reprocess traumatic memories so they lose physiological charge. Somatic therapies focus on bottom-up regulation, completing incomplete stress responses stored in the body. Healing is not endlessly reliving trauma, it's updating prediction models. It's teaching the nervous system that was then, this is now. And sometimes what was interrupted, the fight, the cry, the boundary, needs safe completion. Completion reduces hypervigilance. Stop waiting for calm to act. Here's one of the biggest anxiety traps. I'll do it when I feel less anxious. I'll apply when I'm confident. I'll speak when I'm calm. I'll show up when I'm ready. But anxiety often decreases after action, not before. If you wait for zero activation, you reinforce avoidance. Avoidance teaches the brain that situation was dangerous. Good thing we stayed away. Instead, act while anxious. Send the email with shaky hands. Have the conversation with a racing heart. Walk into the room while your mind says leave. Your brain gathers corrective evidence. I felt anxious. I survived. Confidence is not the absence of fear, it's evidence accumulated through action. Courage precedes confidence. Always. Redefine what calm means. Many people misunderstand calm. They think calm means no racing thoughts, no heart rate increase, no tension, no discomfort. That's not realistic. Calm is flexible activation. Resilience means you spike, you recover. The speed of recovery matters more than the intensity of the spike. A resilient system may activate strongly, but it returns to baseline quickly. A dysregulated system stays elevated long after the event ends. So the goal is not zero anxiety. It's faster return to center. You don't eliminate alarms. You recalibrate sensitivity. Build a system, not a moment. Real recalibration happens when daily inputs support nervous system safety. Stable sleep, consistent movement, reduced stimulants, intentional exposure to manageable stress, meaningful connection, purpose-driven action. Over time, your baseline shifts. You wake up less braced. You react less explosively. You recover more quickly. The alarm becomes quieter, not silent, but calibrated. Final integration. Anxiety is not proof that you're weak. It's proof that your nervous system is vigilant. And vigilance is adaptive. The goal is not elimination, it's recalibration. You build tolerance, you complete stress cycles, you reduce avoidance, you increase exposure, you stabilize your baseline. And slowly, the internal alarm lowers, not because you forced it, not because you suppressed it, but because your brain learned something new. We've handled uncertainty before. We survived discomfort. We can recover. That learning is biological, and biology can evolve. If this reframed anxiety for you, comment recalibrate. And if you want the next deep dive on trauma informed nervous system healing, tell me below. You're not broken, you're adaptive, and adaptation can upgrade. Don't forget subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications.